Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Hello, and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, here to explore health issues that affect us all. Today's conversation centers on a critical topic: recent findings about puberty-blocking drugs and why tens of thousands of adverse events linked to these medications appear to have been overlooked by regulatory authorities. Joining me is my co-host, Ilara Sky. She focuses on natural health insights and has been looking into the specifics of these reports. Ilara, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this issue. The main point we're examining is that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, apparently did not prioritize over 70,000 adverse event reports linked to puberty blockers. These reports weren't minor complaints. They range from relatively common problems like persistent headaches to more alarming conditions such as swelling in the brain and even sudden loss of vision. Naturally, that raises concerns about whether regulatory bodies are meeting their responsibility to warn the public.
That's a substantial number of reports. It underscores how essential it is to ask questions before accepting these prescriptions for our kids. Puberty blockers are often described as a way to pause developmental changes in children who are either experiencing early puberty or questioning their gender identity. While that might sound straightforward, pausing a child's natural development can have more serious implications than some people realize. The body relies on a complex hormonal balance, and interrupting it can lead to long-term difficulties. The question remains, why didn't the FDA act more decisively on so many reports?
Indeed, the public commonly expects the FDA to function like a safety net. If something looks risky, the agency should investigate it and, when warranted, issue strong warnings. This did not appear to happen here. Some critics point out that the FDA has been highly vocal about other drugs for far fewer reported problems. Meanwhile, with puberty blockers, evidence of potential harm was effectively sidelined. Parents depend on the FDA for guidance, and a failure to highlight these risks leaves families unaware of the serious side effects their children could face.
Let's talk about the drugs themselves. Puberty blockers act by suppressing the release of estrogen or testosterone, hormones that drive puberty. They've been used for precocious puberty in the past, but we now see them prescribed to children who question their gender identity. The effects aren't necessarily reversible. The slowdown in bone growth, the potential impact on brain development, and the psychological consequences are concerns. It's not merely pausing a process in a perfectly safe way, which is why the lack of public warnings seems so significant.
Precisely. When a drug can cause brain swelling or vision loss, it's far more than a mild intervention. Yet we've seen a relative silence on these issues, particularly when you consider the total number of adverse reports. Some accounts mention that children developed tumor-like masses in the brain, which is incredibly serious. Parents or guardians might assume puberty blockers are well studied or fully approved for these specific off-label uses. However, the long-term data on safety is simply not robust. Without clear regulatory guidance, many families take on these risks without truly understanding them.
This points to a broader inconsistency in how the FDA manages drug safety. The agency has a duty to evaluate risks, communicate them transparently, and investigate further when signals of harm appear. In other contexts, we've seen them respond strongly over fewer reported side effects. Here, though, concerns were largely downplayed, leading some observers to suspect that political or social pressures may be part of the reason. Whatever the cause, the public depends on consistent, unbiased evaluations of safety.
Let's address why this matters for anyone with children or younger relatives. By interfering with the normal hormone balance, puberty blockers can derail crucial aspects of growth and development. Bones need these hormones to build density. The brain relies on hormonal changes to mature in healthy ways. When these processes are halted, it's not clear we can just catch up later. You can't always press pause on human biology without experiencing real consequences.
Agreed. Another point from the analysis is how important it is for parents to educate themselves. If the FDA's oversight has been inconsistent, families have to step in and do more research on their own. Having frank discussions about the realities of biological sex and puberty is a good starting place. Experts recommend affirming a child's biology early on and offering honest answers about how the body works. According to the information we're referencing, misguided assumptions might lead children down a path of unnecessary or harmful interventions.
That's where resources come into play. For instance, the book Lost in Translation by Dr. Miriam Grossman is often mentioned as a way for parents to understand the broader context. The book delves into the psychological and medical dimensions of the transgender movement, detailing how certain ideas can spread without adequate scientific scrutiny. Since the FDA didn't strongly highlight these possible risks, parents can at least seek out reputable works that raise the concerns the regulators overlooked.
One point you mentioned earlier is the transhumanist angle. The article connects gender-affirming interventions in children to a broader transhumanist agenda, suggesting that normal biological processes are being disrupted on purpose. Essentially, the belief is that we might be moving toward a future in which natural bodies and traditional reproduction become less prevalent. Whether someone agrees with that perspective or not, it's an aspect that prompts deeper thought about where medical innovations might lead society.
Precisely. From that angle, the push for puberty blockers in young individuals may be seen as a preliminary step toward more radical alterations of the human body and identity. It's a contentious notion, but it does highlight why transparency is critical. If there's a larger goal at play, families should at least be informed about that possibility. Combining this view with the sheer number of adverse events reinforces the need for open conversations.
Let's address some frequently asked questions. First, what exactly are puberty blockers? These are powerful drugs that suppress the release of sex hormones, halting typical puberty-related changes. Second, are they safe? The evidence points to significant risks, including over 70,000 documented adverse reports. Long-term effects remain unclear, raising legitimate worries about irreversible harm. Third, why didn't the FDA warn us more thoroughly? That's the central point. The agency apparently minimized these reports and did not prioritize them as it has with other drugs, leaving a gap in public awareness.
Another common question is how parents can affirm their child's biological sex and still provide support. The recommendation is to teach children early about the permanence and value of their birth sex, answering questions factually and calmly. As for protection from harmful ideologies, parents can stay informed, encourage critical thinking, and turn to materials like Dr. Grossman's book for a rational perspective. It's also vital to recognize when a medical intervention is being promoted without sufficient evidence. With puberty blockers, many parents discover that the science backing up the practice is relatively weak, especially for younger children.
In closing, I want to emphasize the importance of investigating all medical claims carefully. When we see an agency underplaying tens of thousands of side effects, we have to question whether the system is functioning as intended. Puberty blockers are far from harmless, and if the FDA will not ring the alarm, individuals must become their own advocates. Familiarize yourself with independent research and consult multiple sources before agreeing to any treatment plan.
That's a strong takeaway. The conversation about puberty blockers highlights the responsibility we all share in questioning what's presented as established fact. Whether you're a parent, a caregiver, or someone who cares about children's well-being, it's crucial to demand clear, transparent information. The seriousness of these adverse events cannot be ignored, and a better understanding of the long-term effects is essential for making truly informed decisions. Thank you for delving into this topic with me, Ethan.
And thank you, Alara, for laying out the complexities and urging everyone to look deeper. That does it for this episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. We appreciate you spending your time with us and encourage you to stay tuned for more discussions on critical health matters. Until next time, stay informed and take charge of your health.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.